It'll tell us when we're connected. Or is it? Oh, yay, here we go. Welcome, Karen. I'm Amber, for people who've not seen me live before, because this is my first live and Karen's first live. But I'm Amber, author of Warrior Within, Root, Rise and Reclaim. And Karen has joined me today, Karen Covington, author of Your Body Knows. So welcome, Karen. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk today with you. This will be fun.
We met on one of your posts, didn't we? A good few weeks ago now. You'd written quite in depth about beliefs, and we got chatting and we decided we should meet and arrange a virtual cuppa, maybe collaborate together. And yeah, we did that the week before last, didn't we? And we went deep, took a deep dive into all sorts in the end, beliefs, the ones we inherit, the ones we might choose, our healing journeys. But what really sparked my interest was how the conversation took a deep dive into awakening. And we talked a little bit on either side about both of our awakening journeys. And I know that you experienced a Kundalini awakening, just timed at the time your husband at the time had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I just wondered if we might talk about, I'll share the reason why I wanted to talk about the awakening through struggle. We initially were chatting about, weren't we? And one of my recent posts is that video of our conversation. But today, the reason I wanted to talk about awakening through denial is because I had my own little version of awakening, and on Friday, just a more gentle one than the ones that we were talking about, and we'll be going into a bit more detail today. But I had my own version of a soft awakening on Friday, and I knew that I wasn't grounded, and I was kind of telling myself that I wasn't dysregulated, going for my nature walk, and was adamant in my mind that I wasn't dysregulated. I was just a little bit ungrounded. And then when it came to lying on this floor, actually, my bedroom floor, and connecting with my breath and regulating, I realized that actually I was in denial about being dysregulated and a little bit defensive, just having this little tussle between myself. And it was the next morning when an insight came through: to awaken, we must first meet ourselves in denial. And that was where the edge for this topic of conversation came from today. So yeah, I wondered if you could start by sharing with us, Karen, what your version of denial looked like.
Yeah, well, for me, I've never even dreamed we'd be talking today about what we're talking about. It's like I literally jumped into another person's life, because 5-6 years ago, I literally was in a completely different career. I was a communications writer for the government. I was married, very normal existence. And then my whole life changed. In 2020, my husband was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I had that physical experience. I have never really dealt with my trauma, my childhood trauma. I'm a Gen X, and it's all about putting your problems aside, not focusing on them, right? Just push it down and continue. And that's what I did. So just produce, serve, that was my motto, and never really looking beyond that, right? As who I truly was. And I was living in this mask of, I didn't really honestly know who I was. And when I started having these experiences, and, I had the Kundalini awakening, but then after my husband died, I was so focused on connecting with him again that I think I just willed it into existence because I'm a super manifester, and I just started visualizing and feeling in my body that I will talk to him again, because we really didn't get last words. He stopped talking at the end. We didn't have closure, and it was killing me inside. And so when I first started experiencing these, what I would call mystical experiences, I was like, well, that can't be true. These things don't happen to me. I mean, I would love to, but I never thought of myself as right having intuitive abilities, seeing things that are beyond right the physical. But I have been actually my whole life. When I look back, I had been seeing energy my whole life. I just didn't know what to call it. And so what I did was I tried to debunk and deny my experiences because I didn't want to believe in something that wasn't real, right? And also the stigma that goes around this. And it was really, really strange. I mean, I was seeing like his light, his energy, and feeling it and hearing his voice. And so much opened up to me that that's how I started my spiritual awakening into discernment, using discernment to see what is my truth, what is real. And the more and more I dug in, the more I couldn't deny that these things were real. And that's when the denial kind of opened up into my true awakening, I think. And my world blended both the physical and the non-physical in ways that I never imagined. And I started feeling myself as more than just this persona of the belief systems that I inherited from my parents, which weren't good. Sorry, mom and dad in spirit, but not really healthy. And I started really seeing that I'm not this persona, this mind, this body. I'm just pure energy having an experience. And I can create who I am at any moment. We all can. I can wake up tomorrow and really kind of not like how this is going and say, you know what, I choose something differently. So I started really living from a space of, instead of being a victim, to the conscious creator of my life. And that's what changed everything, because, you are really what you believe. And so if you believe you're a victim or you're powerless, then that's what the energy that you will manifest and put out to the world. And so when I changed my beliefs, I changed everything, my body, my mind, my relationship. And now it's really weird to say, but I honestly see why my husband, we chose this path together. And I miss him in the physical, right? But I still have him in spirit. But it's led me down a path that I would never, ever have gone before. And it's brought me so much more joy to be in this timeline, which again is really strange to say, but I'm doing things and meeting people and helping people in a way I never thought possible. So, yeah.
I can relate to so much of what you're sharing. But I know for me, it was during a time of finding myself completely disabled by an illness I'd kept quiet about for 20 years. And whilst all that was the case, I kind of woke up to what was true for me and a new set of beliefs. That, as I'm sure it was for you, was an incredibly tough, turbulent, difficult, challenging, unimaginable, heartbreaking, life-destroying time. So how did you support yourself through those times?
Well, honestly, it felt like I kind of received information from my what I call infinite self, because I started practicing things that I never would have done. Number one, the most basic thing is breathing. I didn't know, because I was running a dysregulated nervous system from my childhood. It was fight or flight in my home. I had an alcoholic father, a mother with mental, some issues there, and there was physical abuse in the family. And my nervous system was always on guard. I was always scanning, right? Looking for what's next. Scanning for the danger, basically. And so all my life I was breathing from my chest. And I just got these feelings of move it down into the diaphragm. And so I started just doing daily, pranayama breath practices. And then I started examining my thoughts. And this is one technique that I use with my clients that to me has been so powerful, because our minds are just, we're just taking in all of this information. And we get in these thought loops or spirals. And then it takes us down into emotional, pit sometimes. So you're in this spiral, and now your nervous system is dysregulated. And now you're probably breathing up in your chest again. And now you're not really thinking clearly. and we're not in coherence. And really all this work is about clearing the static and using your breath, your mind to relax and come back into coherence. And so, you know, I would challenge everyone to like check in 3 times a day with what your thoughts are. What was the thought? What was the emotion behind it? Where did you feel it in your body? Did you feel it in your gut, in your chest, right? And then take a breath. And the goal here is not to judge the feeling or escape it, but it's to be the observer of it. And we would become the observer. Sorry?
Could you take us through that now? And then we can we'll play with it together. Yeah.
So, you know, basically, you just, let's say we're having this conversation. I'm feeling like excited right now. And I feel it in my chest. And so I would just notice that. I would just notice the feeling, the energy of excitement in my chest. And how does that feel? How do I want that to feel? Do I want it to spread? Do I want it to stay? Just stay with it, right? Just be with that feeling of excitement in the chest. And then maybe take a breath. Just a slow exhale out. And just notice the difference. If your body settles, if it relaxes. What is the thought now? And then what I would do is I would actually write this down. What was my thought? What was my feeling? And then maybe if you have time, you want to go and check what that feeling was about. You might have an answer right away, or you might not. Either one is okay, right? You're just letting yourself have space to observe and feel. That is it. And when you do this and you check in, like say 3 times a day, and you're recording this, what you're literally doing when you go back and review it, look at it after a week. And what you're going to do is you're going to see your future, because what you're feeling and thinking today is your tomorrow. And if you don't like what you read, because I sure didn't and still do, right? Because we're not going to be in a state of joy all the time. That's not why we're here. But then you can really see your patterns, right? And then dig deeper into why this anxiety is always underlying there in your chest, right? What does that mean, right? And then do breath work to release that, right? It's really all about observing, accepting, not pushing things away. And I really want to make it clear that I was at a seminar with an energy healing seminar over the weekend, and the person who was leading it was talking about fixing. And I really did not love that expression, because we're not broken. There's nothing broken with us. We're basically either in coherence or not. And so what I like to think of it as like, is I'm clearing the static, the noise that's not my truth, away from my body and mind, so I can be clear. And when I'm clear, right, and in a space of regulation, I'm now opening myself up to be in a space of love. And I can make decisions from that space that are so much more aligned with the life I want to create. And it works brilliantly, I have to say. This is one of my most practices that I've seen the most movement, because after a while, you won't need to write it down, and you will just automatically be doing this. And that's when you know that you're really integrating it, right? It's all about integration, right? Because so much of this stuff is like, oh, I know these things. We all know these things. Everyone on this call probably knows these things, but it's about integrating it into your experience, right? Where you're not thinking, you're just feeling your way through life. And it's so much better.
Which is the big part of the conversation I often find missing, actually, the integration and what it is and what it looks like, and how we go about doing that. I think I'm going to give that a practice more myself, because I felt actually a little apprehensive, and I found it difficult at times to connect with my thoughts. I'm not all, even if I write them down, I still don't seem to have easy access to them. But what came through there was the thought was I was a little apprehensive because I didn't know what was coming next. So that was really interesting, because I don't need to sit here and worry. I can, sit here and breathe and be grounded and relaxed and enjoy it, rather than, worrying about what's coming. So yeah, that was really interesting. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I can see, I think because I've seen you write about it before, Karen, actually. So it's not the first time
Yeah.
I've heard you say this, but I'm sure I've seen you write about in one of your recent posts about noting it down a few times a day and then looking back at the patterns. And that's something, that's something I'd really like to have a go at myself.
Yeah. The more we can understand our patterns and the why we react, it seems like, for me anyway, it makes everything, the density of that emotion, just kind of lighten up and disperse.
Mhm.
So when you can understand the why behind something, it just somehow it just loses its grip, and you're like, I get it now. And so you just let it be and flow, right? And not get so wrapped up. I used to be completely like, I could not get out of a bad mood to save my life. I was completely locked in it, and I didn't even know how to get out. And today I'm literally able to shift almost in the moment with choice, right? The other big thing, a tool that I use, and it seems so inconsequential when you think about it, but I test these things since I'm big on, does this work? If it doesn't work, I don't want to do it. I don't want to share it. So one of the things is just setting your intentions, right? I wake up every morning and I just set my intentions of how I want to feel that day. How do I want to show up? And when you do that, what you're doing is creating the energy in your field. You're already creating the potential for that future state to match the reality. And so that's another thing I practice and see, because almost always when I do that, my experience matches what my intention was. And that I find fascinating. Something so simple. And you don't have to be super detailed about it. Like, I set my intention to be mindful today, right? I set my intention to respond in love. Doesn't have to be a big thing in the morning, but just that simple little grounding practice in the morning has also really changed my experience.
Living intentionally has been a big one for me as well. Yeah, setting the intentions about how I want my day to be, or the week, or the next lunar cycle. Yeah, such a big
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, there's so much to explore when you first have an awakening. You see all these articles about like the top 5 things, top 10 things of spiritual awakening. And I read one today. It was actually on Medium. I thought it was quite good. I usually don't like listicles, but this one was not really a listicle, but it is true that your whole life changes like almost overnight. And you are seeing things and feeling things that you never felt before. And it can be really it's unsettling, right? Your whole trajectory of what you thought was real is now gone, right? And that's why I remember when I was going through all of this, one of my long-term friends, we've been friends since like we were 6 and I'm 58, so forever. When I was telling him my experience, he said, I believe you, but I don't like this, because it made him question what's real, right? And now he's working with me actually and going through my program, which is amazing. But it's true. It's like it kind of like unwraps everything. And now you get to put everything back together in a way that feels honest with you, who you are, what the world is, how do you want to show up in the world? So really, we are creating moment to moment. And when you're awakened, you know that. And you're making the choices that are more in alignment with love, really. Because when you get really basic, there's only 2 really responses or energies, and it's either love or fear. So every single decision in your day is either going to be based in fear or in love. And when you give yourself space to choose, to be the observer, and to feel your body, because your body will know, then you can make that decision, right? And we're not always going to be able to choose, obviously, in love. There's things that happen in moment to moment that we're not able. But the more you practice this, the more you really will. And the big things that were really upsetting to you, like the irritations, like stuck in traffic, all of that doesn't really show up as much. And then you find your life is just kind of in the flow. And that's just such a more fun place to be,
There's definitely a lot more ease there, I've found, for sure.
Yeah.
What do you notice about when, because in the past few years, I see it a lot that people almost want to wait for the struggle to end before they make the changes, when I get to such and such a point, when this happens. What do you notice about that, Karen?
So that's interesting, because I'm actually writing an article kind of about this, and it's about, like, really, we're never done, right? The struggle will never be done. Certain struggles you might reach an end to, but there's always the next struggle, because guess what? We're goal oriented, right? We want something. Where there's a desire, there's a want, there's usually something that's in between the two. So you've got to work at it. Like, for instance, for me, the last thing I ever wanted to do was go on camera and talk about any of this. It's like, I don't want to Instagram people, like, I know everything, guru. No, I'm just sharing my experience. And so basically, it's like, you have to look at it like, when I first started doing medical intuitive readings, and, I was taking all these classes and learning, and I was amazed at how people could connect and get such detailed information. And so I had a goal. Oh my God, I'm going to be so happy when I reach that goal, when I get to do that. Well, what happened was I got that goal. But guess what? There's still, right? I'm happy for a moment. I'm celebrating for a moment, but then I'm going to the next. So there's the next struggle of getting to the next level. So really, it's like the struggle, honestly, what I've experienced is, that's where the fun lies, because that's the challenge. Like, the struggle of going through my husband's passing. I would have never thought that that would be a gateway to some of my greatest joyful experiences on the planet, right? And now I can honestly say, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be having these experiences. So wherever your greatest fear or struggle is, that's usually where your greatest joy is going to be, if you choose to be curious and move into it, right? Embrace it and not push it away. So that's what I'm doing. That's what we're doing, right? Together, we're embracing the things that scare you or the struggles, and then just kind of making your way through it. And you could start really small. Start with something really, really small, and then build, right? So to me, working with you is like that gateway for me. It's like, it's so much easier to have a conversation and share your thoughts with someone instead of just being a talking head on the screen by yourself, right? So what a brilliant thing that we align and we're getting to do this. So that's kind of, I think struggle is something to be curious about.
And you spoke about really about the breakdown becoming the breakthrough, which was another question I was going to ask you in terms of your experience with that, because I know when I had a mental health breakdown in 2016, it felt like the end of the world, and it was in one sense, but it was a breakthrough in another, and I just wondered where you stood with that and what the difference was.
Yeah, breakdown, breakthrough. Well, breakdown would be Karen in her 30s. Now, I did have multiple life events: father's death, 6 months later, mother in a memory care, lost my job, husband left, lost his job, 2 small children to support. So it was a lot in a year. But I was like a victim. I thought life was happening to me. I wasn't creating it. I wasn't part of it. And I literally, the only reason I didn't have a complete and utter breakdown was because I had children to support. But I literally did. I was doing things that were so counterintuitive to myself, full of like just pity and anger and hatred of myself, of like, how could this be happening? And so a breakdown is, I think, hopelessness. And that's what I felt. Complete hopelessness. And where can you go if there's no hope? I mean, that's not good, right? And the breakthrough for me for that period of my life was getting so sick of my pity parties and my wallowing and being the victim that I couldn't do it anymore. Like, I just detested the person that I was presenting as. And so it was literally like the next day I got to that point of like, this is horrible. I decided I'm done with it. So literally that's what I did. I changed my identity. Like, I would say overnight in a way. I just woke up the next day and was like, nope, I'm done with that. but I had been in that space for a long time, right? It took a while. And so I think that for me, that's the difference, right? Hope. I got that spark of hope, and I was just so sick of being that person that I was like, no, I don't need to do this anymore, right? So find that thread, that person, that connection that gives you that hope to lift you out of that, because you can get stuck there for quite a while, and it's a lot of suffering. It's really that you don't really have to go through.
And how can someone support themselves when they're in that space, when they're not fully in denial anymore, but not kind of fully ready to wake up either?
Yeah, I think that's where really a lot of self-love comes in, which I think is kind of hard, like to describe. How do you love yourself, right? When you feel unloved, when you feel unworthy to be loved, right? Again, that's like just, I think, allowing yourself the feelings that you're having. And that's kind of what I did. Sometimes when you have intense emotions, it's good to go into it and feel it into the body and not resist it. Because really, when you're resisting something, that's when it persists. And so the trick here is not to get lost in that well for too long. And that's what I did. I didn't just feel it. I was stuck in it, right? And so giving yourself grace to feel the feeling and not judge it, right? When you become the judge, that creates more of that static in your field. So allow, observe, and then be kind to yourself, right? Speak kindly to yourself. Look at yourself in the mirror and really see that you're just true love, beauty, right? That's where we all need to see. Yeah.
Can be the hardest thing though, can't it? I mean, that's one thing that I've learned is, well, I wish that someone had taught me this when I was younger, but how I'm feeling is valid, and how I'm feeling is how I'm meant to be feeling, and how I'm feeling, it's okay to feel how I feel. I think that's been the biggest one for me, and that actually my body was not wanting or asking for judgment. What it actually wanted was tenderness. I mean, that has been such a painful lesson for me to learn. And I think the way I showed myself love was by asking myself, once I'd established how I was feeling, which, by the way, I had to use an emotions wheel for a long time, because I simply didn't know.
Right.
And like you mentioned about the practice before, it then, it then becomes intuitive, and you don't even have to write it down. And I did eventually not have to use the emotions wheel to connect with how I was feeling. But the question that followed that, once I had established how I was feeling, was how can I support how I'm feeling, and know that it was okay to be feeling how I was feeling. How can I support how I was feeling? And then through those practices, which I didn't realize at the time, but they became my self-love practices, whether they were breathe, make a cup of herbal tea, go for a walk in nature, pull a card, whatever, whatever range of things will come up in that any one moment. So
yeah, I mean, the body is like, it's holding, or your body is a living record of every experience you've ever had, right? The cells of receivers are listening. And so when you're speaking poorly of your body through emotion, through words, through thoughts, that is secreting different hormones that are then demonstrating and flooding your body, right? And it's either going to be an expansion or a constriction. And so it's so important to connect with the body, let the feelings be there, right? Don't try to move them away, but be soft and gentle with it, and just allow it to be. I used to have a horrible inner critic, and now she doesn't come out as much. She's still there. The other day she came out. Her name is Sally. And Sally can get real scary. It was weird. All of a sudden she's out and about, and I'm like, whoa, where is this from? It was kind of weird. I was on a walk and I started actually talking out loud. I was like, hope no one's looking. But it was interesting, because it was like, wow, I was able to practice discernment, really tell her what was really real. And it was like, it just dispersed the energy, and she just kind of got real quiet, and she left. And we're not like, we're not casting parts away, right? It's not about that. It's about bringing them home to center, to be part of the system and not be separate. So she needed to say what she needed to say. And so I allowed her to say everything and then brought in, well, that's not totally true, right? And you're speaking with love to your part. So, any kind of inner critic work is really important. In IFS, internal family systems, they talk about it as a manager or a protector part. So just notice when they come out and, don't shut them down, listen, but then help them see where your side of the story is, right? And so it's really important to just kind of be aware of all the parts that are within us. They all need that acceptance and that love. Yeah.
Yeah, that was something I had to, excuse me, in the end, learn to befriend about myself, like learn to befriend all those parts of me. And that started really from a place of severe pain and included befriending the pain, even at the highest end of the scale. And I've reached a point now, kind of 8 years into the deeper end of the journey, on what feels like a full-time job basis, whereby when that inner that critical part of myself kind of chirps in or pipes up, I actually will. It was just, you reminded me of it. Was saying that you'll speak out loud. I actually end up blurting out, "I love you, I love you," and I will like quickly shift it to love, and that is is now an automatic response, but that has come through a lot of practice. So what would you say, Karen, to someone who feels like they might be awakening or starting to awaken, but is not quite ready to see everything just yet?
Yeah, well, I think, I do kind of believe in divine timing, like when you're ready for something. So I would just say open mind, open heart, right? Just be like, I kind of look at myself now as like, I'm a scientist observing this being, like I've sometimes picture myself as like my higher self is popping out and watching this expression or form, human being doing things, and just creating in the moment. So just allowing yourself to feel, not suppress anything. And you don't have to share everything either, right? Some people feel like, well, I should be talking about this, whatever. But if you don't feel ready, do what feels right for you. I would say check in with your body. What does your body feel like at the moment? What does it feel like when you have something you want to do, but you're not sure about it? Ask your body, right? Where do you feel it in your body, right? Do you see a color, a shape? Like get in tune with the body and breath. And then see what information comes through, right? Because you're going to have like the conversations with the different parts and the body. Believe it or not, I mean, I've led people through so many guided healing journey sessions. And most of these people don't think that they're intuitive. Well, every one of them comes back with, this is what they said, this is what my body said, this is what my part said. And it's not like they're, making it up. This is the truth that we're holding within. We sometimes just need someone to help us lead the way, right? And have that moment, because it is difficult when you're by yourself in this. Like I was totally by myself in this. Like I had maybe one or two friends that kind of were really open-minded, but I had family that necessarily wasn't some, and I felt kind of alone with it. Like maybe I am crazy, and it didn't feel good when I knew the truth and I still felt like people weren't really believing me. But really, when I look back on it now, it's not my job to persuade anyone about my experience, because I'm creating my reality. It's mine to create, right? We all are. And so your truth could be so different from somebody else's. We do share collective truths, but I mean, we see this when two people go to an event and they report back completely different experiences, because we're creating our body with our minds and our energy every moment of every day. So just be open to whatever may come through and just be the observer, not the judge.
Oh, lovely. Oh, it's been great to meet with you today, Karen. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience on the topic of awakening through denial? Or how they can support themselves?
Yeah. I feel like for me, it's been a journey to let go of the layers of static to really see who I truly am. So to be authentic and to be showing up as vulnerable, as silly, as whatever it may be. I feel like, honestly, for me, it's like the older I get, the more I return to the small child I was, because that's the person that came in who really didn't care what people thought, didn't have to prove her love, didn't have to do anything but just show up and experience in the moment. And when we do that, that's when our authenticity comes out. And we spend so much of our time trying to be someone else. And the only thing we can do is be ourselves. And that's why we're here, because there is no other you. There's no other Amber in the world or ever will be. I mean, think about that. There'll never be another Amber. I mean, this is it. So, for me, the next 20, 30 years, how many I have left, is like the icing on the cake. How many more amazing experiences can I create? What are the limits that I can test and move through? What are the challenges that we can move through together when we all kind of allow ourselves to be real? And that's what we're here to do, just get real.
Beautiful. That's been amazing. Thank you,
Yeah.
Karen.
Thank you, Amber. It's been a joy. I'm so glad we got to meet. And I know we're going to plan another one of these in the coming weeks on my channel, Your Body Knows. And so we'll be communicating that with everybody. And I just want to shout out to everybody here who joined. And thank you so much for supporting our journey. And we would love to hear from you. Let us know what you thought and any other topics, because we're always looking for different, what are people wanting to talk about? What conversation do we want to join in together?
That'd be really good to hear, because even the topic of awakening, I was thinking there will be so many different angles that you.
There is. We can talk about that endlessly. Next 20 years, we can be on it. Totally. Yeah.
Lovely. Right. Well, I thought to close, I could finish with a poem that I've written recently called A Gentle Invitation. So I'll read this to you all. A gentle reminder, it's called. Sorry, not a gentle invitation. I'm tired. I can't do this. I'm not enough. Or maybe I am enough, exactly as I am, not needing to be any more, not needing to be any different. I am enough. Feel it, breathe it, receive it. I don't know what I'm doing, or perhaps I think I don't know what I'm doing, or maybe I simply feel unsure. What is this feeling when I doubt myself? Self-doubt, a pause, a moment of hesitation. I'm not ready, or I don't feel ready. But do I have to feel ready to begin? No, not for this. What I do need is to meet myself exactly where I am. Yes, absolutely, always.
That's beautiful, Amber. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone.
Take care.
See you next time. Bye.